allowed to see that or no?
Any, there are so many little lawyers in hospital.
No, he's not, I am.
We do have it, Mr. Blauskin and others. Look on your screen to your left. See that? If we could dim the lights, perhaps.
Okay.
That's on paper.
Check that out.
Welcome to the public hearing of the 2011-2012 budget for the Lakewood Public School District. Monday, March 28th.
Next
Okay,
slide.
next slide. Okay, some of the highlights of the 2011-2012 budget. Okay, there is a reduced tax levy from the prior year. We are reducing the tax levy from the prior year by $872,621. That represents a 1.22% decrease. Okay, the budget also does make provisions for a new roof at the middle school as recommended in 3 architects' reports that were recently obtained by the school district. There are going to be no reduction to educational programs and no reduction to staffing levels. Okay, we'd like to provide you with a history of the budget process. The original budget was sent from the former business administrator in January of this year, 2011. The first presentation that was made public to the board was on March 3rd, 2011. Since that time, the committee has met 3 times, on March 16th, March 21st, and even just before tonight's meeting, March 28th, to discuss the budget. So it has been discussed at great length. I'm sorry. Now, public hearing presentation is now tonight, March 28th. Next slide. Okay, most important question that's always asked, what will this budget cost me? Well, it's going to be a reduction in the tax levy. For the average assessed house of $400,000 in the township of Lakewood, the average annual decrease will be $157.19. That equates to a monthly decrease of $13.10. And as a percentage decrease, that is 3.39%. Decrease. Okay, next slide, please. It's already there. Okay, the budget that was presented at the March meeting on March 3rd, 2011, the total budget was $100,194,881. Since then, as I stated, the committee has met 3 times, and here we are again meeting in public. The budget is now decreased over that time by $538,474. Bringing us to a total general budget of $99,656,407.
Would you mean 99 million?
I'm sorry, 99 million. Wasn't that good? Sorry. Okay, yes, 99,656,407. So the committee did work very hard to find those decreases of 538,000. Next slide, please. Okay, this also represents the same amount of decrease to the tax levy. The original tax levy presented to the school board on March 3rd was $71,259,478, and the tax levy being presented tonight is $70,721,004. And again, that decrease is $538,474, most of which was done through vigorous committee meetings. We would like to stress that you not forget to vote on Election Day, Wednesday, April 27th, 2011. Please mark it in your cell phones. Write it on your hand. Very important that the community come out to vote. The polls will be open from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the administration would like to thank you for supporting all of Lakewood students. And now we have time for questions.
The lights can go on. Any board members have any statements, comments, questions?
Through the chair, Mr. Green, could you explain how you got from the 1.2% to the 3.4%?
From the I'm sorry, say it again?
On the 7th slide, it said that the reduced tax levy is 1.22%, and on the 4th slide, it says it's 3.4%. I believe that includes the...
Okay, the 1.22%, it represents the reduction in the tax levy, okay, from the actual tax levy number, okay? the 3.39% represents the reduction in the taxes that on an average assessed home.
Right, I believe that the number is because it includes, I mean, this is from what we have over here, which was not put out on the public thing, but it includes $1 million or 1.2 of a reduction for the debt service.
Well, yes, the first part in the reduction in tax levy, no, because that's only on the general fund. In the second part, yes, that does include the reduction in the debt service to do some payoffs of two parts of the debt service.
Right, so I'm saying, because based on the numbers that we have here, that was how we jumped. I just wanted to explain that.
Yes.
Okay.
Through the chair? I guess nobody else has any comments? I'd like to ask the superintendent that arriving at these numbers, I'd first like to ask, what is the, earlier tonight you mentioned a number, if it's possible to share it with the public, and I'd like you to. What is the current population of our public school system?
When I first got here, it was about 5,100 to 200. As a result of the opening of the preschool, I believe it is 5,500 to 600. Give or take, 100 with children leaving.
Tonight the number was given was some 5,200 something?
Yes.
67.
That's
off the October 15th report.
right.
Obviously, October 15th is a snapshot the state does for all districts.
Okay.
Thereafter, additional students could have been added, but according to our BA, that's the number. Okay?
Madam Superintendent, you're saying that currently we have approximately
5,000,
5,500?
right, exactly. 5,500. Remember, as our board attorney is saying, we take a number October 15th. From October 15th to here, we have many changes between transfers and admissions, and numbers change. And I believe it's 5,500.
Okay. What do you anticipate, I mean, this budget is based on anticipation of next year. What do you anticipate for the public school system, the size of the public school system next year? How many students do we
When
anticipate?
I studied this district, when I was applying to be the superintendent, I looked at the last 3 years. I spoke to our former BA, and the numbers have been pretty stable, meaning that they were, before the opening of the preschool, they were at about 5,100, 5,200. So I don't anticipate it because, for example, I don't anticipate having any more room for the preschool, so I believe our numbers will stabilize without any significant decreases or increases.
So an answer to my question, that this budget was based on how many students?
To the best of my knowledge, it was based on the numbers I've indicated.
5,500?
Yes, but I can be corrected by our BA. I don't deal with numbers every day, but that is my understanding.
I'm going to agree more with the superintendent because I'm sure her number is more current reflective of today. Okay, this number was back in October, and it's counted for a state report, which can be different than what the actual count is of population.
We will know next October 15th whether or not there's any significant decreases or increases by the October 15th.
Then we'll know the exact number, but let's understand.
Every year that there's changes. You have the October 15th, but then it changes.
Fine, I have no problem with the changes. My question here is that obviously the budget is for next year. And this budget was based on various different assumptions, various different calculations were taken into account so that we have a number that we come up with for next year, knowing that X amount of students will need X amount of services, X amount of teachers, so on and so forth. So you're telling me that we're not expecting any increase in the population next year?
I don't have a crystal ball in front of me.
I'm not asking for a crystal ball, I'm asking as far as the calculations or the anticipation.
Respectfully, when I looked, I said there is, the Lakewood, since I think I looked at from the year 2006 to the present, there hasn't been more than a couple of hundred children change. Sometimes it was up, sometimes it was down.
Public.
Am I answering your question?
No,
Now,
I'm sorry.
absolutely not. My question, I'll try to rephrase the question. We have $100 million or $99 million or whatever amount of $1 million that we're going to ask the people of our town to support over here based on a given amount of services for a particular amount of students. Now, suppose there was a population explosion in Lakewood and we had 35,000 people next year, obviously this budget wouldn't be good. Suppose, heaven forbid, whatever, or suppose there was a tremendous decrease. Okay, not heaven forbid, whatever. The point is, these numbers are based on a particular assumption. That X factor has to equal to something, and that's all I'm asking for. What was that X factor? What is that? Is it 5,200? Is it 5,500? Or is it 6,000? Or whatever the case may be. I'm just asking for a simple number. Obviously, it has to be based on some kind of assumption.
I'm going to repeat it. My information is that we have 5,500 children.
Okay.
I will turn it over to the BA if he has different
that's what he
information.
said earlier, it's based on that number thing.
Fine, so, okay. Now let me go to the next point. As far as private school attendance is concerned, and we do service the private schools with their busing and with the special ed. Do you anticipate any increase in their population this year?
I am not as familiar with the exact number of the non-public schools, but I believe our BA may, due to our bus transportation person, they have much more exact numbers. Gus, if he's still here?
Through the chair, the simple question is, I guess, from what I understand, was the budget looking at an increase of non-public students as far as those limited services that they're entitled to? Is that the question? So we were told by our BA and by our transportation person that they anticipated 3,000 more students for transportation purposes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so that is the answer as far as transportation.
So we anticipate 3,000 more students in the non-public sector.
That's what we were all
So
told.
is that all taken into calculation when we were basing the numbers on the various services that the non-public school students qualify for? Madam Secretary, Madam Superintendent?
Well, the BA is answering. What's your answer?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so if that's the case, I'll ask the superintendent once more. She might know the national averages. What is the national average of students that require special ed services on a national basis?
I
She
would
may not
refer
know.
to the attorney.
Their literature suggests anywhere from 9 to 11%.
So am I to
But that is
assume?
not all the literature.
So am I to assume that if we're anticipating, at least on one side of the ledger, or the non-public ledger, of 3,000 additional students, that 9 to 11%, let's make it easy, 10%, that there should be approximately 300 additional students that need special services and special education?
You could assume whatever you want, sir.
Through the chair.
I'm asking a question of the superintendent and the BA.
Yeah,
And
so-
if they can answer the question what this was based on, I'd like to hear an answer first.
What confuses me is, you were sitting in the meetings, you haven't said a word.
Mr. Fink, you're not, I didn't ask the question from you.
I know, but I just want to know
I'm
if is it a platform for candidacy tonight, or if we're trying to do something.
Well, let's see.
You
We had
sat in the meetings.
Mr. Blaustein here. He
You
was
sat in the
candidate.
meetings, all the meetings, now all of a sudden he's saying something. It's mind-boggling to me.
All right, let's go.
Why don't we just get a platform?
You don't need any comments, repeat it down there.
All right, then you know what? Then
I'm
you're
not
the
talking to you,
president.
I wasn't referring to you, I'm referring to the public has no right to butt into our conversation.
No butting in.
Madam Secretary, Madam Superintendent, I